We haven't seen her for a few months, so it's a very, very warm welcome back to our Denise.
Thank you very much.
It is lovely to see you back, but you've been off for a while because you've been unwell, and you've talked often about depression, and you're a great advocate for mental health.
Yeah.
And you call it the unwelcome visitor.
I do.
And they paid a return.
Yeah, so basically to try and see this story, anybody who watches this show will know that when I had my first child 36 years ago nearly, I suffered severe hospitalised postnatal depression, and sadly for me, that opened up a tendency to severe clinical depressive episodes over that time. However, for 5 years since September 2019, I hadn't had a breakdown. We used to call it, it's an episode now, or an acute mental health incident, a breakdown, we used to call it, for 5 years. Which is the longest I've ever gone. And I had sort of convinced myself as amateur doctor that maybe something that happened when I gave birth hormonally, with the lack of estrogen that happened, had righted itself post-menopause, because I was no longer frightened of my illness coming back. Anyway, I was very busy in November, but my depression is endogenous. There are two kinds, endogenous and reactive, mainly two kinds. Reactive is what it says on the tin, that you are triggered by something, some trauma that brings on an episode of severe depression. Endogenous is where chemically it just happens.
And you don't know.
And you have no idea. So September 19, I was driving up north with a friend. We were laughing with Matty's godkids in the back of the car. And I got to the Angel of the North in Newcastle, and I got this tingling in my palm and a metallic taste in my mouth. And that heralds the onset of an episode of really severe, black, terrible depression. Anyway, so I can be in a very happy situation when it happens, unstressed. So November comes along and I felt okay. I had a lot going on. I was doing a lot of jobs. The stalker that I had was being released from jail. You know, stuff. I was going to be away from home doing a pantomime for the first time in 12 years, but I was okay with it. Anyway, I was in Hale, near where I live, and I felt this happen to me. And I drove by mistake up a one-way street, and there was two people shouting at me. And normally you would just shout, you know, whatever. And,
good morning.
Yeah, good morning. And I didn't know what to do, and I felt this complete feeling of unreality and all of these horrendous feelings that I hadn't had for a long time. And I drove into a side street. I couldn't remember how to get home. It was awful, and I knew it was the start of something. And I got back to my husband, Lincoln, and I just said, it's here. And he knew what I meant.
He knows all the signs.
He knows all the signs. And it was so black, so dark, so quickly. And I haven't had anxiety for a long time. I've had depression, but not the anxiety. And the panic attacks started. And Lincoln was trying to, you know, take stuff out of my diary. And I don't eat anything. When I'm fed up, I have the appetite of a horse, and I'm very greedy. When I have depression, I can't eat a thing, but I lie to people and say that I'm eating, but I wasn't eating anything. And my health was going down. But I was determined I couldn't let them down with this pantomime. You know, when you're on the posters everywhere and they've sold tickets, and, you know, it's a huge responsibility.
And it's a huge
my big charity ball was coming up. I'm the figurehead of this charity ball and all of these things. Anyway, I ploughed on and I started the pantomime, and within 3 days, I collapsed in the foyer of the hotel that I was staying in. And I got back to the room and I said to my agent, you've got to pull me out. And do you know, one of the things that was interesting is I've only ever in 45 years pulled out of 2 productions, both pantomimes, funnily enough. I've obviously got an aversion to pantomime. And 20 years ago, the reaction of the press was really detrimental to someone with a mental illness. Yeah. And I remember a local paper in Stockport said, Denise Welch lets down thousands of fans by citing nervous exhaustion, but Susie Bloggs, playing Snow White, rallied on despite a broken wrist. And I just thought, wow. And I think I was so terrified of the reaction. I didn't, not from here, I knew what my girls and what the production here would be about, but I didn't know. But my agent, Bex, who's been amazing, her and my husband, phoned the company manager of the Panto, and the first thing he said was, I get emotional, is she on her own? Does she want me to go and be with her? You know? Good. And from then on, they called me a car and I was going home and I got to rest and recuperate and get well. And then, I'm laughing about this now because I've made a recovery from this episode, hopefully not to have one for a long time. And I got back from a lovely holiday in the Caribbean last Saturday, all bronze, looking forward to coming on here last week and showing off my suntan and I'm back and all this. And I got rushed into hospital on the Saturday with acute sort of peritonitis, a perforated diverticulitis. So I've been in hospital on a drip for a bloody week. Excuse me. Anyway, they didn't have to do surgery. They got it with antibiotics, thank you. And I'm eventually, after, as my mother said, just take me to the knackers yard. That's where
Are you eating?
I'm eating, and believe you me, what's going on down there, I am a loose woman, believe you. That's all I've got to say.
Well, listen, we're so happy to have you back.
Thank you so much.
Happy
Lovely
to have
be
you back. Also, want to thank you, as we always do, for talking about this, for being so open about it, because actually, that theatre manager saying, tell her not to worry...
It meant the world to me.
But you've been instrumental in that, Denise, because nobody talked about mental illness before, mental health, and you have, along with other people. So thank you for doing that. It always helps, and even if it's helping one person today, thinking...
Ironically, I had to miss the talkathon for mental health, which apparently has raised a phenomenal amount of
we
money.
haven't got the absolute total yet, but we will give you that soon. But it's done very, very well. So thank you for talking about it. And if you have been struggling with your mental health or anything that Denise has said today is resonating with you, go to the ITV website, itv.com/helplines, and there you'll find lists of organisations who can offer you and your family, actually, help and support.